So I'm definitely still riding the high from Thursday with how things went with kind of maxing out my trap bar deadlift and finally breaking through a boundary that I've been stuck on for a while. Um, Even with that, things are still a little creaky in my squats, even with just taking a week off. 260 wasn't too terribly difficult, but there were some times where I definitely had to slow things down and grind out reps a little bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Being able to grind them out is still a sure sign that I can do them and I have the ability to kind of get through them. But it kind of sucks just because it's a very workable weight for me, and to be having to resort to that on only like the fourth or fifth set, it sucks. But I'm personally, I'm going to try blaming it on the fact that I had to take a week off, and I just didn't want to like keep squatting, not do anything else. I wanted to add in everything alongside it, with bench and overhead press. So maybe I should have done a little bit more to maintain it. Maybe not. I don't know. It just seems that I always kind of respond weird to time off not doing rep work. If I do max, lifts for maxes, it doesn't really translate the same as to doing reps. Like some people can get that kind of benefit out of it. But I'll just have to stay consistent with it and keep pushing. Around the third set, started feeling pretty good, but definitely had to resort to grinding around the end of this set, and definitely in the fourth and fifth set. Kept consistent with my 2 minutes of rest, though, because it wasn't anything that felt like I couldn't do it. It was just kind of, a little bit of work to get through it. So that rep right there, definitely a bit of a grind. And then going to the fifth rep right here, not too bad. I took a second to kind of breathe and make sure I could rebrace. And that might be part of it too, is that I felt that I needed to get through these sets, and I was doing them on very minimal breath, minimal breathing. So one breath to kind of get through the first 3 or 4 reps, depending on which, the earlier sets. But I definitely took time to slow down and breathe between each rep later on, especially in the fifth set. So I think part of it too, and what you can see in that when my lockouts are shallower, is because I'm going in one breath. And so I'm not stopping to breathe and retension my core and do another rep. But I'm just kind of pushing through it. So that's definitely, I think, a habitual failing on my part that I really need to work on and address in order to maintain that consistent posture and good lockout with my rep work on my squats. So I think in this fifth set, I really took a lot of care to make sure that I was locking out every rep, and I was still feeling pretty energetic by the end of it. So I ended up pausing the last rep, and I kind of want to see what that looks, because coming up, I might have paused a little bit too long because I felt like my head was going to explode. Okay, that second rep was a little soft on the lockout. That one was a lot better. And then right here, going into the final rep, I paused this, and then, yeah, that was a grind. I said it felt like my head was going to explode going into that, but I got through it. Don't look red, though, so that's good. Coming into bench, I was testing around with it with an open bar, and my wrist was still kind of tweaked, so I put on a wrist wrap just to get a little bit extra support to it. And honestly, that made the difference for me. My wrist is probably about 90% healed right now, and there's still just a little bit of twinge to it. And just having that extra support to bear down and take some of the load off of my wrist while it's still healing made a lot of the difference with being able to properly bench today. So that's why I'm wearing that, and you see me taking it off after every set just because I had to have it on kind of tight, and it was cutting off the blood to my wrist. So it was not super comfortable to have it on longer than I needed it, but it did what it needed to do. 165 moved really well. I'm surprised that this maintained, just because bench, again, seems to be one of those exercises for me that if I don't do it, degrades fairly quickly for me. And I think that's just a lack of my upper body just is not developed, or as developed rather, as my legs, and it really doesn't hold on to muscle mass as well. So whenever I stop working out, it just starts shedding muscle. And it makes it pretty difficult to maintain things if I'm not actively benching or doing muscle specific workout, like any sort of bodybuilding or anything like that to do that. So, it's just something to keep working on. The last set of 165 was a little bit of grind on the last rep, and that was really only because I missed the re-rack at the end of the set. But I could feel it drop my left hand. I just kind of turned, looked at it, and very calmly just pushed it right back up and back into the rack to lock it out. So that's a good sign that I can still kind of work with the weight even when I'm done, and it's pretty much static, and I've relaxed all tension from my upper body, that I can muscle my way through that. Ooh, sorry, a little tired. A little later in the night doing this. Had some things going on after I finished working out, so I didn't get to it right away. But yeah, that fourth set, not too bad. Fifth set, a little grindy at the end, but still very doable. So definitely thinking I can do 170, 175, 180 up in the air. I have confidence that I can do it. I've never done any 5x5 set that heavy, but I'm really excited to be able to give it a try. So that'll be 2 weeks from now. Definitely on the 16th rather. So we'll see. So this rep right here, good tension, maintaining that, push it through, and I got to re-rack. Missed, oops, put it in, and then the tension was out of my arms. So it's good that I can still do that. You can see a little frustrated I was just like, come on, after doing that. Deficit deadlifts felt pretty good. Really focused on making sure that I was sitting deep, and I think I finally found like the proper activation going through this. So as I was coming up right about there, I could switch and pull entirely with my glutes and use my hamstrings and everything to pull the whole weight. And I think that might be the bodily cue that I'm missing to be able to properly deadlift with conventional form, just because I think that's what's holding me back with being able to keep my hips down. So I think doing this in combination with the RDLs is going to really benefit me, because it's going to focus a lot of my hamstrings and make me lengthen those, get them stronger, and be able to find appropriate depth. And I was really taking time and care to make sure that I was resetting with a low back, or a flat back position and down low, making sure I start that pull low entirely. The only downside with that is that I'm still very prone to hitting my shins with the bar as I'm coming up if I'm not careful. And it really sucks because the bruise tends to stick around, and it makes it kind of uncomfortable to deadlift, but I've kind of ironed that out of my form now. So this set, I'm very happy with how it went. At least feeling it. Watching it back, definitely could still get my hips lower before I start really getting higher with that pull. So I'm still falling to that sequential feel that I've talked about in the past, to where legs come up with the hips a little bit, then I good morning the weight up. And that's what I'm trying to train myself away from doing. And it takes a lot of time to change a habit like this. This has been something I've been doing for almost 3 years, deadlifting this way. So I have to really unlearn this motion and learn it properly. And it's going to take a lot of time to do it. But I think doing the proper exercises to attack those specific muscle groups will make it easier to force them into the proper position. And it's just going to take time. It's going to take a lot of practice and a lot of concentration of what I'm doing to adequately do this. And it's a little bit more difficult too, because I'm doing this entirely self-coached. I'm not using a third party to keep an eye on what I'm doing and maybe suggest things. I'm just kind of feeling this out on my own and figuring out. I was grooving a little bit there and kind of sunk right into the zone, but just trying to figure this out as best I can. trying to learn how my body works and the most appropriate way to go through and what I need to do to accomplish my goals, to reach that 500-pound deadlift, to hit a 440-pound squat, to bench 250 pounds. I'm figuring this all out one session at a time, and just reviewing through everything and thinking, what is the way to go about and doing and accomplish this. So it's a nice puzzle. It's something I've always liked trying to do, and it's problem solving, and especially when I can apply it to my own self, just because self-improvement is something I've always really valued. And having an outlet like this where I can see tangible results is always extremely satisfying. So we'll see where it goes from here.